This is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. Been off a couple of days because I'm a little bit under the weather, and I thought I would be talking a little bit better today than I was yesterday. But I won't stay on long. I just want to make a few quick points. As you saw, Pittsburgh took on the Ravens the other day, which was another slugfest between the two teams. It's one of those games where the two teams know each other well, and because they know each other well, they pretty much know what they can do to stop the other. But I asked the question the other day, how much has Lamar Jackson improved? He rips and runs up and down the field against lesser teams. When he has a running game, then he's able to throw the football. But I've been telling you all along, when you can't run the football, what are you going to do in the passing game? Because if you can't run between the tackles with your back, they're going to prevent you from breaking outside with the run. And it all comes down to how well you can throw the football, determine how well your team does in that game. Well, the thing with Jackson is he went 16 of 33 for 207 yards, and he did manage to throw a touchdown. But the touchdown he threw came in the end of the game. Granted, they were trying to drive to try to tie the score down by 8 points. But that's primarily against a prevent defense. During the process of the whole game, he didn't throw the ball downfield a whole lot. Like I told you guys before, he likes to dink and dunk to the tight ends and the backs, but he's not completing much downfield. And that is hurtful when you're trying to advance, because if you don't have that downfield threat, the defense can compress and prevent you from getting that big play. So what Pittsburgh really had to do, like I've been telling you, if you're going to beat the Ravens, you have to stop the run between the tackles with the backs. If you can stop the backs from getting off, especially a guy like Henry, you got to hit him before he gets started, then you can work on outside leverage to keep Jackson in the pocket. If you can do that, then it makes it where he has to throw the football to beat you. And like I told you before, when it counts the balls, he hasn't been able to do that. And in this particular case, Henry rushed for 65 yards. He did manage to score a touchdown, but that is far below some of the performances he's had this year. And how you doing, man? Aneem boy, 99, hi bro, how you doing? But Henry's been ripping and running all year. But against a good defense with a good scheme, he's not been able to get off. Kansas City pretty much held him in check. Now you got Pittsburgh holding him in check. Hell, Cincinnati had him held in check twice until the end when they kind of fell apart. I don't know if they're in bad shape or what, but they had a good defensive scheme to go against the Ravens. What am I doing? I'm talking about the Ravens right now. I've been talking about how Jackson, he seems to have issues in the big games against teams with a good defense. If he's not able to run the ball with his backs, he doesn't seem to be able to get the ball downfield to his receivers. Now, Zay Flowers, like I say, he did score a touchdown at the very end there, but that was only his second catch of the game. He has to stretch the defense with those wide receivers. Otherwise, teams are going to come down and compress. And when they compress, it makes it a little tighter on the quarterback. And, you know, he did manage to scramble 4 times for 46 yards, but that's a far cry from 100 yards. Dangerous team, the Ravens. But if you do the blueprint that's been out there against them a couple years now, then you can beat them. You just got to score enough points to outlast, because they're going to score no matter what you do. But you have to be able to keep them from making those big plays. If you can keep them from busting those big plays, then I don't see this team here advancing very far. But again, this is just one game. They can make the necessary adjustments and come back. But what's dangerous about that is this is not the first time they've been pushed like this, and it's not going to be the last time. So what are they going to do to make the adjustments to move forward to try to get to the Super Bowl? Right now, it doesn't look so good. You know, I know he's having a MVP caliber season, but again, those aren't playoff caliber teams he's running over. When you play against a playoff caliber team and you're a true MVP candidate, your performance shouldn't drop off that much. And these numbers 16 of 33 for 200 yards. Wide receivers, 4 catches, and your main guy, Zay Flowers, with only 2. They got to do better than that, man. They're not going to go very far with numbers like this. And you just have to know that Pittsburgh is just going to put that game plan up on the wall, and they're going to tweak it and say, what can we do better when we see this team again in a couple of weeks? And they're going to tweak it again just in case they see them again in the playoffs. Either way, Baltimore is going to have to make some adjustments, or they're not going to last very long in the playoffs. Now, the Cowboys last night, they ended up getting blown out last night by the Texans, 34-10. They can't seem to stop nobody in Dallas, and the offensive production has dropped way off. Prescott pretty much gone for the season, and the word is that Dallas is pretty much tanked for this season. They've reeled it in. They're not really trying a whole lot. That's why they sat Prescott down, and their goal is to try to build for next season. And that has led to the talk of people thinking Deion Sanders is going to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, don't get excited about that, because he has told you repeatedly that he has no interest in coaching grown men, because that's not a good fit. At least that's what he says. But I don't think it'd be a good fit, because he can't run the program the way he wants to run the program. In Colorado, he can pretty much do what he wants to do, which is the reason why the same people who were talking about him coming to Florida State, that's not going to happen either. Number one, they're at odds with each other. And 2, he won't be able to do all the things he wants to do, especially the way he's doing it at Colorado. But like I told you guys when he first took the job at Jackson State, the only reason he's doing this is to get his sons through the program, to make sure they had an opportunity to do what they're doing now. And once he gets past that, I don't see him coaching very long. Now, he's got it going over there in Colorado now. So if he can keep that going, why not keep coaching? But again, he spent the whole career coaching his son. So if he's going to go to a pro football team, you have to know that it'll be a team that would draft his son. But like I say, I just don't see that as a possibility. Florida State, that would be a good fit. But like I say, he's at odds with Florida State. And it would be a great story if he can convince Travis Hunter to forego an obvious top 5 pick to come to Florida State, which he was he had chose Florida State over everybody before Deion came along and talked him into going to Jackson State. So if he can come back and end his career where people thought he was going to start it, along with the quarterback Sanders, and you have to know that fortune is not going to be the same as it's been this year at Florida State. So it's very possible that if those 2 guys were to come to Florida State with a Deion and those pro coaches that he has, then Florida State can have an immediate turnaround. But I don't see that happening. So you can forget about the Cowboys. You forget about Florida State. You can forget about him staying in Colorado, as far as I'm concerned. But before we get to all of that, I told you Colorado's biggest threat is going to be Kansas. And I can't remember, they never caught the final score, but I believe Kansas knocked off BYU the other day. They were right there in the saddle to do so, but I had to go check the final score on that one. But the way they playing now is the way that people expected Kansas to play at the beginning of the season. And to me, they pose a bigger threat to Colorado than Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State get in there and scrap with you, but they just don't have enough bullets to shoot it out to the end. But Kansas, they're playing good defense, and with a good game plan, they can stay in the game with Colorado. Now, if Colorado's offense keep clicking the way it's been clicking, and they're able to score a couple touchdowns to separate from Kansas, and they're going to run them off too. And it would be a great ending to the story for Deion if he can make it to the conference championship game after people had written him off after a terrible season last year. All right, let's see some of these quotes. I'm in Florida, whoever this is, I'm not familiar with I can't really make out the type of language that is, but we're in Florida here. Paxton Moba, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I'm not familiar with that alphabet. But anyway, I think that Colorado is going to end up in the conference championship game against BYU. And from that point, We'll see who's the best in the Big 12. I think they're only going to get one team out of that conference to the playoffs. But right now, really the hottest team in the Big 12 besides Colorado is Arizona State. So, and BYU losing opens the door for Arizona State to slip into that championship game. And that's a team right now I don't think nobody really wants to play. But we'll see. Colorado still controls their own destiny. They're going to take on Kansas this week. And Deion has a chance to do what people never thought he had a chance to do. But if you look at my videos last year, I said that he would have a better faring at Colorado in the Big 12 than he would in the Pac-12 because the competition steps down a little bit and they would improve. And they have improved, and the competition is not as strong as the Pac-12 was last year. Look at Utah. Utah won the conference. Washington won the conference, but Utah was still a strong team, and they got by Colorado last year. And you saw what Oregon did to Colorado, and it would be a good rematch if you can see Oregon and Colorado somewhere down the line, especially with the way that Lanning had so much to say about Colorado last year. That would be poetic justice if those two teams could meet in the playoffs somewhere. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But Colorado, Kansas must-see football this weekend. Alabama's going into Oklahoma. SEC is still tightening up. With Tennessee losing to Georgia, you're going to have two teams. It looks like you're going to have at least one team in the SEC championship with two losses. And if Texas can get by Kentucky, then it comes down to Texas A&M and Texas that last week of the season to see if we can get a team in there with one loss. But I predicted a couple weeks ago that you're probably going to have both teams in that championship game with two losses. But anyway, it's going to make for some exciting football. But anyway, just to recap what I was saying, Lamar Jackson, he's improved throwing the football overall, especially against lesser teams. If he has a good running game from Henry or anybody else running the ball, and he's able to escape the pocket and get a lot of yards scrambling, then the Ravens can be almost unbeatable. But when you play against a good defensive team who has a good scheme to keep that inside running game cut down, and you can keep Jackson to a minimum when it's scrambling, then if he has to beat you throwing the football, he still hasn't shown that he's going to do that. Throwing it to the tight end, fine. Throw it to the back every now and then, fine. But you got to stretch the ball downfield to your receivers. And your main guy, Zay Flowers, he only caught 2 passes, and one of those came in the end. He scored a touchdown, but that was pretty much against a prevent defense. So he's going to have to do better than that if the Ravens are to advance. And Cowboys, no, Deion is not going to Dallas or Florida State or anywhere else. I think he's going to call it a career once his sons get out of there. Now, one other note about that, his son's, the quarterback has another year. He's labeled as a junior, and I hadn't figured out how because he's been a 4-year starter, which leads me to believe that somewhere along the line, the NCAA has changed the eligibility rules. Before, you had 5 years to get 4 in, and they gave you an extra year because of COVID. And ever since then, I'm completely lost. You know, this guy at Utah, Cam Rising, he's been playing college football 6-7 years. I mean, with NIL now, college football and all college athletics is pretty much pro sports. So is a eligibility number really, is it really important anymore? But you don't want a guy 30 years old playing college football either, so something to think about. Anyway, this is Sports for Real. I got to go to work. When something hot comes down, I'll be back at you. If you like what I'm talking about, subscribe, hit me up, drop some comments, and I'll be sure to respond. But until then, I got to go to work. I'm out.